Also just put in a link to the attendance register. Let me see where it is. Okay, cool. Let's start. And now the others will join as well. But let's get this going. Okay, so basically this morning, going to do the prep for your assignment 8. So we're going to look at just the following topics, but not really going into them. We are going through a lot of examples, but we'll look at quadratic functions, exponential, log functions, linear systems, and then some of your mathematics components as well. Okay, so let's get into it. So this is the first one that we will cover, but you can see there's a few of these. So let's see if we can cover most of it. And I think after this, you will be properly prepared then for your assignment. Okay, so this was one of the first that we're going to look at. Oh, did my link not work? Oopsie. Or was it? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Okay. That is so weird. Okay, I will next time create a new link and not copy the old ones in. Cool. Okay, so this was the first one that we're going to look at, and let's just see what they give us. They tell us I is bigger than 0, j is bigger than 0, k is bigger than 0, and choose the incorrect statement. Let's draw a line, but we don't know yet. All that we know is if this is 0, all of the numbers are bigger than 0. So let's see if I is smaller than j. So if I is smaller than j, then j is bigger than I. Okay, so that one is correct. If I is bigger than j, so if I is bigger than j, then I plus k will be bigger than j plus k. So let's say I is 4, j is 4, I is 9, and k is 5. So then I plus k is 14, j plus k is 9, so j is still bigger than K. So if I is bigger than J, I plus K will be bigger than J plus K. Okay, so that's also correct. Okay, this is interesting. So obviously this was wrong, but so let's draw another one. Okay, so if J is, I is bigger than J, then I times, let's say K is 5 still, and J times 5. So that number will still be bigger than this number. So if I bigger than J, then I plus K will be bigger than J plus K. Okay, so again, if that was 4 and that was 9, J times 5 will be 20, I times 5 will be 45, so that multiplication will still be bigger than this multiplication. Okay, and then the last one, so if J is smaller than I, so if J is smaller than I is smaller than K, so I must be smaller than K, then K will be smaller than J. No, K will be bigger than J. Okay, so with this one, that one is actually the wrong one. And you can see what I tried was, or what I did was use, I'll always for these stuff use nearly a timeline, because else one just get very confused. Because then it becomes really difficult. So when you draw yourself a timeline, actually very, very easier to see what to do and which ones to cancel or say is correct and incorrect. Okay, questions on this one. Is it a bit clearer now than it was? See that see that, Kyle, is I used to do that as well. But yeah, as one gets older and you start forgetting stuff, it's just easier to write it down. Especially when you start doing the D1 or you start multiplying and all of those stuff. So yeah, I know one wants to do it in your head, but sometimes the old method of just jotting it down quickly also assist. Okay, cool. Let me move this one a bit out that we have all the. Okay, so bit small, but let me see how else we can just quickly make it a bit bigger and just get, yes, question.
Sorry, sir. There's a hand up.
Yeah, please.
I would like to ask. So the incorrect one from that one would be a D.
Yes, yes. And I think what's also very important for you guys is it might be that your previous question was saying which one is correct. And then the next one, you automatically go to correct and not look for the incorrect one. Because again, we needed to work through everything until we get to the last one to say incorrect. So again, also, and I know they love to do it in all of these types of questions, where they throw in the one incorrect, then the next one is a correct question, just to confuse one even more. So just in that instance, please always be on the lookout for what they ask, which one is correct, which one is incorrect. Okay, cool. Okay, so here we have a question that says, okay, researcher estimates that the population of a city is increasing exponentially. Okay, so what is very important in this instance then is, how does your exponential formula look like? So let's quickly, I actually just want to see if I can quickly Google it. So it normally is a function e to the power of x. It's normally something like that. And then depending on how it is going to work out, that will be the thing that we need to look for. So estimates for city increasing exponentially at an annual rate of 0.7%. If a current population is 950,000, then the expression that models the population of a city T years from now will be what? Okay, so let's look at all these options. So if you look at this one, if I multiply, so the first thing is 0.07. So 0.7% is how much? Okay, so it's 0.007. Okay, so automatically that one is wrong because it should be 2 zeros and a 7. Two zeros and a 7. Okay, so it is either C or D. Okay, then the difference in these two is, and nearly what you need to add to this then is so let's just quickly add. Okay, so we've got the percentage, the 0.007 times the time period. Then remember, we want what the population is going to be in the end. That's why we need to add the 1 as well, because that takes what we have now, and this will be the part that we add. If we don't include the 1, we only get the number of the increase. So if we only have this part, we only get the number of an increase and not what your full value is at the end of a period. So the 1 is very important in the formula so that one can see what your total is. If I've asked you, and this links to some of your interest questions as well, if I ask you only to work out the increase in the number, then the 1 isn't needed. Exactly. So we're looking at your and that's why I wanted to say at the beginning of a question that compound is right, because you want to have that compound effect to see what it is in the end. So that's why also, Kyle, in that question or that formula, that 1 is so important. So even if they had even if, say, that first one was actually 0.007 to the power of t, that component, then still important thing is that 1, so that you get that compound effect in the end and not just what the interest is. So be very careful also when they talk about this question, but what they want in the end. So because this was, I think, from the first attempt, so it might be that in the second attempt, they don't ask you what the total is in the end. They might just ask you what is that gain going to be in the population. And then remember, we nearly don't add the 1 to it. We actually just want to see what the increase was. So very important nearly just to see in the end what they actually want. Okay. Yeah, I've been caught out too many times with these things, that because one is so fixed on, and that comes to your kryptonite nearly. It's like you nearly say, but this is what it should be, and then in the end they throw in a curveball. And the problem with all of these subjects that I do is that there is normally an answer for the wrong thing that you did as well. So you pick the wrong one, your kryptonite said it should be right, you think you get your full points, and then it's nearly, yeah, so, yeah. Yes, Joss.
Okay, so when we are doing the financial mathematics, the interest rate must always be in decimal place, or we can just punch maybe 7% as it is.
Yeah, so when you do, let's quickly, so on your, when you need to work out using your financial calculator, you would have said 0.7%. But remember when, and that you guys did, nearly the first topic was around looking at the differences between percentage, how to change percentage and into decimal and those kind of things. So be very careful about that. So if it was 7%, then it would have been 0.07. So just be careful with the percentage. They love to put the percentage in the question and the decimal in your answer set. Because then what they actually test is if you did the topics in topic 1 nearly, and you can still do that. So they test it without even asking a question on it, because now they test if you could have transformed the percentage into a decimal. Okay, so that's just their way also of really not needing to ask questions on topic 1 nearly. They the whole time they would nearly have this. So they love to, in your answer set, not really give a percentage, but move to the decimals. Okay. The stuff I love, the linear inequalities. Okay, so obviously here should have now been 4 graphs, but what I just gonna show you is how I would have gone and set this up so that you can, when you need to pick your graphical representation. These two, you will see the x bigger than 0, y bigger than 0. It's normally always part of the linear inequality sets. Mostly one is, but why do they actually include that? So the only reason why they do that is because we could have worked with a graphical representation of all 4 quadrants. All that this is doing is saying, well, we working where x is going to be bigger than 0, y is going to be bigger than 0. So we always working nearly in the the first quadrant. So that's the only reason why they put the x and the y in, because when we know this is the quadrant that we're working in. So if any of the 4 diagrams at any of these areas in, and I'm just now randomly, and it was highlighting that area, then we know it's wrong, because we can only, with the x being bigger and the y being bigger than 0, we can only work in quadrant 1. Okay, so that's nearly why they include the x and y bigger than 0. Okay. With the other 3, we unfortunately need to, and what I normally do is I'll draw quick lines of that, not neat at all, just so that one can really see what's happening. So and what I normally do is I just change it a bit in the format that I know. So y equal to, okay, so then basically what I will do is to say, okay, but we need to solve the y and x. So when y is 0, so let's work with that one here. We can work with the others. So when y is 0, what is the value of x? The 28 will go over to there. And your x will be equal to 4. So when y is 0, x is 4, and we can then substitute when x is 0. And when x is 0, you will actually see that y, when x is 0, you will see that y becomes equal to 7. Okay, so that is that first line, and when we say, assume that is a straight line, also important, small or equal, so your area will lie, that you will accept will lie below that line. Okay, so still, I don't know what the options look like, but this is how I would have gone in any case to see which ones I will accept or not. So let's work out exactly the same for the next one, and we'll do the last one as well. So again, when y is 0, we get 12 minus 2x. So minus 12 will be there, minus 2x. So we know that when y is 0, x will be equal to 6. Let's say that is 6. And then when x is 0, free y will be bigger than 12. So there y will be equal to 4. Okay, so let's make it somewhere there. We draw the two lines, or the line between the 2 points. Remember, now it says it's bigger, so it will lie in this area. So now I can already see that if I needed to eliminate possibilities, this is the only area currently that I can work with, because that one needs to be smaller, that one needs to be bigger, so that area I can't work with because it is out of my area that I can select. So normally I would now have already eliminated a few others out of that option. So let's then look at the last one. So 4y minus 3x bigger than 12. So when y is 0, 3x must be bigger than 12. So x, so minus 3x. Okay, so now we're sitting on this side. So that line is going to, sorry, yeah, I did add the minus. So when y is 0, x will be minus 4. Let's just look at when x is 0, you get 4y bigger than 12. So y would be equal to 3. Okay, so somewhere here, there would also be a line going through. Okay, and that tells me it's bigger. So it will need to be bigger. And now what I can then see is my final area that I will work with will be that blue area, because that is the area that all three of those lines is actually addressing. Okay, so this was a long way of showing it to you guys, but this is nearly the process that I normally follows with all these types of inequalities. The one thing that's different is at each line that I'll draw, I will probably be able to cancel out one of the options. Okay, and I'll show you in the next one also a way that I normally, so by just doing that, nearly by the time you hit your second or third equation, you normally sit with one or two options. Okay, questions on this one, but I will do another one of that. And I hope it makes a bit more sense. So for me, again, it's nicer that one nearly works with a step-by-step on this one. Okay, so let's look at, I'm gonna do that we can just see the I don't know why that didn't now want to. Don't worry, we'll sort it out. Let's just make it a bit bigger. Okay, so here we sit again, 4 equations. Here only 2 was shared. I think it was one of those long, if you take it from your cell phone, very difficult to actually see all the answers. But let's again, so the first one, so here you can already see again x, y bigger than 0. So again, I'm only working in the first quadrant, not working in any others. So the first equation, 840. So again, I'll write it always in the format that I am comfortable. So so let's again say when y is 0, so minus 6a, so will be minus 840. What is 840 divided by 640? So when y is, and let's put it here. So when y is 0, x is 140. Okay, this is very small. It looks like, I'm gonna try to zoom in now very big, and then we can just zoom out again. Okay, so there you can see there was nearly 140 there also. So look at that one is the smaller area. That one is okay. Then the other point would have been, so if x is 0, we get 2y is smaller or equal to 840. So y is smaller or equal to what is that, 420. Okay, so here would have been 420. Okay, so let's quickly check those two again. So there was the 420. So it should be smaller. So that is still in the area that I'm looking for. Look where that goes. Smaller. Okay, so that's still fine. Smaller. Look where it's going. Smaller. So with just that one graph that I made, one can see this portion can't be. It needs to be smaller. So this one is actually then the first graph that I would have eliminated because it can't happen in that gray area because it needs to be smaller. Okay, so from a regional, by only drawing one line at the moment, I could have been already eliminated one of your options. Okay, so then we'll do exactly the same for, well, this one is the easy one because it's X and Y. So when X is 0, Y is 250, and the other one, if Y is 0, X is 250. So that one is an easy one because there's no, and let's just do that, and smaller. Okay, so again, smaller. So let's zoom in onto that big one, or the first one. So there was the 240, there's the, sorry, the 250, 250. Needed to be smaller, needed to be smaller. So this actually will also not be the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one smaller. So it might have been C or D. Okay, but automatically now I have eliminated two of them because at the moment, by looking at only those two graphs, this is the area of my acceptance, none of the others. Okay, so let's then add that 2x plus y equal to 300. So where y is 0, x will be 150. Where x is 0, y will be 300. So somewhere, and if it goes through that, I'm not sure. And it needs to be bigger. Okay, so it's probably somewhere, it will probably go somewhere through here. So that part would be your acceptance. So let me quickly, just because it's bigger, let me just quickly select something like that. And then that would be your area because bigger. So this one, probably C or D would have been your answer that you are looking at. Okay. So hoping that makes a bit better sense as well. And again, nearly following the process of going from one graph to another one. Okay. hopefully this is now a bit and that is why, Carl, it's sometimes just easier to do the old kind of method. Also, what's difficult is that because everything is now online. If it was paper-based, you would nearly automatically have scribbled down something with your questions. And I think that is unfortunately our one nearly at the moment also. A lot of these things, if you just quickly scribble something, it does make it easier to see whether things are right or not. Okay, so let's see. Again, this was one of the ones that you needed to do, and obviously that is just one of the options. But let's look at what they say in this criteria and just write it down for you. So a high school needs to hire several cafeteria workers and bus drivers. Cafeteria workers earn 13,800 a month and bus drivers earn 17,250 per month. The school board gave the school permission to spend no more than 300 and 345,000 on salaries per month. So 3,800 plus 7250. Where's that for the bus drivers? That must be smaller or equal to 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now one can see they've made it. So if we divide by 1,000, it will be 13.8C plus 17.25. B will be smaller or equal to 345. So that first one is correct. So if that now is in all of our options, you can nearly see, okay, that one is different in the others. You can eliminate some of the others, but that is nearly the first one of the salaries that we've written down. So we've catered for, and let's, again, when we've done that first part, we've solved, okay, with the, then they tell us that on the salaries, but the school must hire more than 15 people, okay, more than 15 people. So C plus B must be bigger than 15. More than 15. So not equal to 15, more than 15. So C plus B must be bigger than 15. So that sign is wrong in this instance. Okay, so that now, again, if you've got 4 options with these set, there might be another one that's only saying bigger than 15. Okay, and the reason why not equal is because the school must hire more than 15. If I said the school must hire 15 or more, then it would have been 15 or more, the bigger and equal to. But they tell us directly more than 15, so it must be more than 15. Then for every bus driver hired, every bus driver hired, at least 2 cafeteria staff must be hired. Okay, so and one can nearly change that a bit, but for every bus driver hired, at least 2, okay, so there it comes in again and not just equal. So for every bus driver, at least 2 or more cafeteria workers. Okay. So for every bus driver, there must be at least 2 or more. Okay, so let's quickly see. Okay, so again, that one it must be the other way around. But if we, no. Sure, if we divide by 2, okay, so one must just be very careful. So let's rewrite that. Let B is on the other side, but then, so if we divide it by 2, it would have been B over 2. So that will still give us that C smaller or equal to B over 2. So let's just say for every bus driver hired, at least, so that one is what's wrong in the first place. So let's write it down correctly in the, so for every 2, it will be at least. So if you have 2 bus drivers, you must at least have 4 cafeteria staff. If you have 3 bus drivers, at least 6. Okay, so that makes it a bit more clearer. So then if you actually did, but now I can see it's still, this is the correct one, that would have been incorrect. Okay, and then the last one, the number of cafeteria workers at most be 3 more than twice the number of, the number of cafeteria workers must at most be 3 more than twice the number of bus drivers. So the number of cafeteria workers must be 3 more than twice the number of bus drivers. Blikkies, okay. So again, the number, and just see if I'm done it correctly, the number of cafeteria workers must be 3 times more than twice the number of bus drivers. And if you then, you could have written it as this as well, 2b minus 3. Okay, so if we needed to, sure, okay. This was quite difficult. But again, it's just sit and nearly write things down. Start and what I normally do, we'll start with the easiest two. So those two were the easiest two. So in this automatically, if you look at your options, you probably with that one would be able to eliminate one of the other three. With this one, again, you will probably be able to eliminate. So here already I could eliminate option B. So it might have been that you could eliminate others as well. So that by the time you do the two more difficult ones, you're actually only sitting with one or two options available. Yeah, Carl, and that is nearly, yeah, what I would normally do is in a case like this, where, and also depending, I don't know if your assignments are time-based like some of the other assignments, because if yours are time-based, I would do, and that has just been how I normally, any time-based things, I would look at and the same with all of these, is nearly look at the ones that's the easiest to do, so that you eliminate your options. And then normally I would have, if I only have then two options left, then I'll most likely guess one of the others, just because of timing, because it does take a lot of time. So if you have, I see you said capped at 4 hours, but so if you have 20 or 30 questions to do in 4 hours, it's a lot of questions. You and I assume you guys can go back to the questions as well, or if you've done it, is it done? Okay, so that is, so what I would do is, oh, we can't go back. So it is, yeah, so that is the unfortunate thing with some of these online. So you don't want to spend 20 minutes on a question like this, but you also don't want to end up at the end of your set of questions with half an hour left, and it's like, oh, I could have done it. So it's a very difficult one to nearly okay, so 20 questions, 4 hours. What's that? 10 questions per 2 hours, 5 questions an hour. Okay, so that is doable. So you can nearly pace on that. If you take too long, I would have guessed and gone to the next question. But again, it is to eliminate some of the options, because I don't want to guess out of 4. So if I can narrow it down to 1 or 2, my chances of guessing it more correctly does become bigger. So let me just, I just want to see that is, let's put that one up before we get to all the interest questions. Okay, so Carl, I think this was the one that you put onto the chat. So let's, okay, so monthly internet service cost 64.80 for the first 15 hours and R5.20 per hour for each hour after the first 15 hours. Amy can spend no more than 200 per month on internet fees. Okay, so monthly internet cost is 64.8. Plus R5.20 for each hour after the first 15. For each hour after the first 15. Okay, so mine is a bit different. Let's just see why I said this. So if I'm doing 14 hours, okay, so that should not. Okay, this is an interesting one. Yeah, I'm now. So it's free for the first. Internet service is 64 Rand for the first 15 hours. So if I do 14 hours, I pay that amount and not the 15 or not the 5.2. So then I should only be paying that and not this, but it can't, I'm not getting a discount. So that is not entirely correct. So let's just write that again. So the 64.8 is a given. Is a given of, doesn't matter how much I spent. Okay. And that will all be under 200 because that is the max. Yeah, this is interesting. So, oh, okay. So this was what you needed to select out of. See, so that is fine for me. So then you need to add that 5.20 for every hour she spends more than 15. So if I spend 16 hours, I just need to pay for that 1 hour extra. Okay? So that's why I want to say minus the 15. So if I spend 15 hours on it, I'm not paying anything more. I'm only paying the 64.80. If I have 16 hours, I will pay an extra 5.20. Okay, so, but what this piece unfortunately also does is that if I said that I am doing 1 hour, this will make it negative, which will then, so I need to nearly counter the part that if we do less than 15 hours. So and that was also wrong with less than. See, this feels to me so. Sure. Let's say, so that's with 15 times that, but that doesn't tell me, because it's not that one. It's not that one. They said it's not that one. See, so it feels to me this is, but they not taking in consideration if she spends less. So everything in this formula is correct as long as she spends more than 16 or more than 15 hours. If she starts spending less, then this doesn't make sense. But so, and that's normally where we would have had X and Y bigger than, so yeah, so that for me, so somewhere they just should have said H is always bigger than 15. Like we have with all the other questions where we normally will have X and Y bigger than 0. They should have just had that, because else that one can go negative. But I assume with the idea of, okay, who's gonna use less than 15 hours, they never got into the negative realm. Because if I do 1 hour, I can actually make money out of it. But let's not go there. So basically, obviously, we did not look at the area if H is less than 15 hours. Okay, so that's why B will be the correct one. Are you guys fine with that? I see you also on the chat also looked at it, and okay, Carl, does that make a bit more sense? Okay, cool. Okay, this was an interesting one that was also sent, and what we do with this one is they've given you what is it, a quadratic equation. When they say the coordinate of point K is 0 and 9. Okay, so that y-intercept is 9. First time that I see they ask you to basically work out the distance from A to B. Okay, but if you get that A value, which will be X will be something and Y will be 9, and here the B value will be X will be something and Y will be 9, we can then say, well, from that minus x to that positive x, we can get a distance. Okay, so that is actually what we wanted or needed to work out. So it's the first time I see them asking it in such a way. So what we can do is to say, well, I know what the y value is on that point. But if I put that y value into that equation, I can get what x is. So y is equal to 9. They've given it to us. So 9 is equal to a quarter x to the power of 2. So if we divide on both sides by a quarter, it will become 36 is equal to x squared. If we take the square root of that, we get x is equal to 6. So this one will be minus 6. That one will be plus 6. But then the distance from there to there is 6 plus 6, which is 12. Okay, so this was, in the end, not difficult, but sure, it's more to realize what one needs to do. That's the difficult component. And yeah, I must be honest, I haven't seen something like this in previous papers or work. So in the end, it's a simple process, but one really needs to know what to do. So they give you a value of 9 that you need to put into the equation so that you can nearly work out the distance. Okay, this was, yeah, a very tricky one. Not an easy question to, from the start, actually know what to do. So I think thanks for the person that sent this through so that we can look at it. So they can ask you more things on, so that line can be moved. They could ask you, by giving you that x point, they could have asked you nearly to work out y so that you can work out what that distance is. So there's a few alternatives that they can also do with this. So they can throw it upside down a bit, ask you other distances as well, but they need to at least give you the equation and the point so that you can substitute it in. So if they give you x, you can work out y. Okay. Okay, let's get into some of the financial. Okay, why 13 units? Yes, Kyle.
So it's going to be a lot easier if I just speak. I had
Yes.
a similar question, but the parabola was a smiling parabola.
Okay.
And for this one, I took the time to draw the graph because I asked myself the same dangerously stupid question. And I'll also send a photo in the group now. I'll send you what I got. But my answer would have been, in the question I had, I remember it was -5 to 3. And
Okay.
the correct answer was 9 units. But if you calculate that distance, a normal person would say, oh, that's 8 units. What we're not considering is counting from the unit that you start on and not the next unit. So it's easier if I send you the photo. I'm sending it in the group now.
Because it might have been that depending if there was a C, so depending on where it is on the axis, it might be different. So
Okay.
let's quickly, yeah, so did you send it on the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, see, so there. Okay, let's quickly.
Sorry, I could also just help you out. The turning point, the value of B
Okay,
on the
wait.
y-axis. Sorry.
Yeah, let me quickly, I want to quickly add this into the. Again. Oh, so that was the second part that they. Cool. So let's just copy this in as well. Was this, so what they did, and it seems like, okay, so let's quickly, okay, that was the one. Okay. Okay, cool. So what they wanted was, okay, so they wanted that height. It seems to, is that correct, Carl? They wanted from that
H.
turning point up until C.
Correct.
Okay, so, okay, this is interesting. See, so, okay, so up until, so that would have been 5 units. Then the turning point, did they give you the turning point?
No, I calculated it using the formula negative B over 2A.
Okay, so let's quickly do that. Would have been -6 over 2a, which is -2, which is 3. Was that what you also got?
Yep.
Okay. This is freaky because it should be 8.
I
But
pondered this for a very long time, thinking I was an idiot.
how the hell can it, sorry for my language, can it
No
be,
problem.
how can that be 9? It's 100 to the nearest meter. And because, let's just make sure, so that turning point, wait. The 3 was, okay, wait, let's just, isn't that x that we calculated? This formula is for x, eh?
I need to find the workings I did when I wrote it. I'll confirm in a second.
I think it is for x, so that we still need to, calculate y. So just make 100% sure for me.
Actually, I think someone in the chat's got it right. There, you have to substitute that 3 back into negative B for 2A.
Yes. Okay, so that would have been -9 plus 18 minus 5, which would have given you 4. Okay. And then 4 plus 5 will give you the 9. But that also shows you, because I was also looking at the 3, if there wasn't 8 as an answer, I would have said, okay, but I still need to, but just the mind that nearly says 3 plus 5 gives you 8, automatically I was like, but it can't be the other one. Yeah, so the process was right up until a point, but then you need to substitute back in y. But again, to my point of the previous comment, nearly, they will give you options that you think like, what the hell is going on? Because automatically I jumped from 3 plus 5 gives you 8 and didn't think about the other options. But yeah, so very similar to this one. So that is now, so the 6 plus 6. So you can see that they nearly play around with the different types of formulas or the quadratic formulas, and really love to ask you the distance. Okay, cool. Sure. Very important to just, you nearly need to zone out of everything else that you're doing when you're doing these assignments, that you can just focus on what they're asking, because it is not straightforward, and there's always like they want to catch you. Okay, let's do a few more. So interest, simple interest. So Mr. Mangena invested an amount of, let's use it, 13,890, divided into 2 different schemes, A and B, at a simple interest of 14% per annum and 11% per annum. If a total amount of simple interest earned in 3 years is 5,508, what was the amount invested in scheme B? Oh my word, this is if total amount of simple interest earned in 3 years is that, what was the amount invested in scheme B? Is there a simple way of, so let's, what I would have done, and this is probably where you need lots of time. If a total amount of simple interest earned in 3 years is that, so let's say, let's quickly work out interest. So simple interest, so the one is 11% times 3 years. So that is if everything was in the 11%, if everything was in the 14%, so 11% times 3 plus 1 times 13,890. I'm getting now something huge, so 13890. Okay, so that was, sorry, the final. I should actually only have calculated the interest, so that was the final value. So the interest component would have been 4583.7 if everything was in the 11%. So if I took the full amount, invested it at 11%, that would have been my interest. If I'd taken the full amount, invested it into 14% interest, I would get 1973.7. So let's just subtract the 13890. So if I take, so this is if I took the full amounts and invested it into 11% and the full amount into 14%, that would have been my interest. So if a total amount of simple interest earned in 3 years is 5508, what was the amount invested in B? Let's just say that is also A and that is B. If you guys have any any easier way of doing this, so if it was 100% B, so what I would now probably do is to say, so that is very closer to that point. So it feels like it's more of it invested into B, into A, but you need to say which amount was invested into. So more was invested in A. So from that 13890, the biggest component was invested in A, so that would have been one of those two is probably invested in A. One of the other two is invested in B. I would have guessed. But let's see if we can. What if we say 5508? That is the interest. Any ideas from your side on this one? Sure. Yeah, so what I would have, let's say, let's go back to so that we know what the interest is. See, that is going to give us a total again. Or we're going to work out. I'm just writing down and seeing if anything pops out that could have been a way. And so I can work out a interest that was earned on that, which is 13.22. So that tells me again that most of it was in A. So again, to leave those two, but I would have said, okay, then what I would have then probably done is I've now got one of those two. I then probably would have said, okay, but scheme B, so let's say I invested 3201, well, 3620 times 11% times 3. What does that give me? If I take 13890 minus the 3620, 10270 times 14% times 3, what do I get? That is probably what I would have done, is to say, well, okay, I've really looked at ways to identify that most will be from scheme A, so I can get a smaller value, and then I would have tried the last two smaller values and see which one it will be. So 3620 times 11%. If I add those two together, hopefully. Yeah, okay, which is yeah, okay, so there must be an easier way of doing this, but that is in, what was it, 10 minutes nearly. Sure. Okay, so if you guys find the easier way, let the group know. But basically what I did was to say, okay, let's just look at the two investments, A and B. Let's see if we work out by only looking at the one and the other one, what the interest would have been, then I'm seeing, okay, well, it seems like the interest lies more to the side of A. So that would have been the biggest contributor. So if I look at the two biggest numbers, that will be the two components of A. We need to look at the other two to look at the components of B. Sure. Okay, that is quite a difficult one. I wonder if one can use averages on the percentage or but nothing comes to mind now nearly what else one can do with this one. Okay. If you get another one like this, good luck. Hope this did give some guidance, but sure, I'm missing the things that one can eliminate. A lot of options. Okay, let's look at the next one, hopefully easier. So again, so a debt of 7132 is due in 5 years. So they gave you the timeline. The creditor gives permission to discharge the debt by receiving a payment of 2714 immediately. I assume that is immediately. And the final payment of RX in 7 years. The interest rate charged on all of amount is 9% per year, compounded monthly. You can indicate the amount on the following timeline to assist you in visualizing the problem. Okay, but let's okay, so I assume we are sitting here at time 0. So if you pay 2714 now, the rest of your debt will be will be 4418. So then that will be your present value. You will have a 9% interest rate, and you will have so 12 times, let's just see, it's 12 times per year because compounded monthly for 7 years. What will be your future value? Okay, is that what you guys are also a debt of 7132 is due in 5 years' time? The creditor gives permission to discharge the debt by receiving payment now, and the final payment in 7 years' time. The interest rate will be that. So Okay, so that is how I would have done it. I read that as on day 0 and not after 5 years. So hopefully that is how it would have been. I don't know what any of the answers we didn't get any answers to this to actually know even if we're following the right process. But then 4418 present value, 9 interest, 12 times a year for 7 years. I get a future value of 8275,81, but not at all know if that is if that could have been an option. Let me just check if there was another question like that. Okay, very similar. See, that was select. Okay, thank you. The date of that is due in. See, so so is that date there? That you first need to work that backwards, or is it? It's exactly the same question. In this one, a date. One can now see the different questions, but very similar. Huh. I see. So that is in both instances. Is that 7664 there, or is it saying that the date of 7664 that is due in 4 years' time? So we haven't actually calculated the value in 4 years' time. Because that will fundamentally change your answer. If you guys can check if in the ones that you've done, if there is a few answers, but we can just play around with this. And that's why some of these I don't like at all, because it's not straightforward. So it's not that I actually now am 100% sure if I still need to use that as my present value to see what it will be in 4 years' time, and then start working backwards again. So yes, Josh.
So can I send a question with options
Yes, please.
in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, perfect. So let's Okay, let's quickly check. Okay, Josh, you got it right, so you must tell us then what you did. So a date of
That's
that.
not me.
Okay. A date of 6/4 is due in 4 years' time, so that was now nearly exactly. So we're gonna get the payment there, 2287. Huh. So I would have said I would
Problem.
have
Sometimes
yes,
I get it correct, sometimes I don't get it correct. It's like in another way, I understand it and it's easy for me. Sometimes it's just if I start the question wrong, then I'm confused.
exactly. So I would have probably gone with a date of that is due in 4 years' time. That's probably how I would have done it, to say, well, that amount that's a debt that I make now, but I need to pay off in 4 years' time. So what I would have done with this one, I would have said, and let's just see if it is correct. So after 1 year, and it's compounded. So let's use for now the calculator. So I would have, let's quickly check. So let's say that is my present value, because that's now. A year later, so that's after 12 months, what is my value? So 6421 is my present value. Interest is for whole time 11%. If I take it for 1 year, after 1 year, my future value is 64. Can that be so small? 50 Rand. Let's just make 100% sure. Okay, so let me just So if I do that, I get a future value after month 1, year 1, 7164.03. So that's after year 1. That was the interest that I got. Then I would say, okay, let's take off the 2287, because that is what I'm doing as a once-off payoff, which will give me 4877. There's no ways that if I now do that for so if it was, so let's say that was the 6421, but see, it should not be that difficult nearly to understand the question, and that is to your point. So let's say that was the future value after 4 years. So if I move it back to the value at 0.0, so let's do that. Then I need to work out what's the present value. I've got the future value is 6421. It was for 4 years at 11%. Let's work out the present value. 6421, your future value, it's 11% for 4 years. Then your present value I get is 4143.65. So then I subtract the 2 well, okay, let's quickly, do we just take it back to 3 years? So I rather let's just take it back to 3 years. Again, if it should not be this difficult to know if you're doing the right. So then my present value is 4623.15. I subtract the 2287. I get 2336.15. So then, if that is now my new present value at this point with 6 years at 11%, do I get that future value? Oh, oh my word. I do. Oh, okay, so ish. Again, and that's nearly to the original point of what does this mean? So that debt was the amount that was due in 4 years' time. So at that point in 4 years, that is what you would have needed to pay. So you basically work back towards what your present value will be at the time that you're making a payment. So it is the future value, yes. So that 6421 was the future value. You must bring it back to the present value at the time where you're going to make that payment. So if that payment was made in, where was that one question, immediately, so that future value you would have brought back to time period 0 to get the present value. So like we actually did here, subtract and then move forward. So the same we did here, we just moved it to that where we're going to make that payment. So if it was at year 2, we would have just moved back 2 years, not 3 years. And then we work out a new present value at that point. And then we use that present value to repredict the future value. Okay, does that make sense? Sure. Let's do one more and then we can end. And it was a good 2-hour session this morning. And we can always again chat and talk on the WhatsApp chat on some of these questions. Just also please complete the, yeah, no, my brains are totally mushed at the moment. Just complete the tenants register, but let's finish off with another one of the linear equations, because this was also interesting one. So consider the 2 lines. So now I'm going to take a shortcut. So when x is 0, y is 5. When y is 0, x is 3. So that will be your one line. Let's look at this one. So if x is 0, y is minus 2. It's just, if y is 0, x is not a great number, what will that be? 4 over 3. Okay, so it will go something through like that. Bigger was that way, smaller was this way. So we would look at this area as a possible feasibility area, sure. Strange one. Okay, so that would be a feasibility area. So if we look at possible x and y values, so x0, y5, not a possibility. because it's not in that feasibility area. -2, -5, not, because it's not in that feasibility area. 2, so x2, y5, this was an interesting one, and maybe I read that one wrong. Yes. Again, easy to make that mistake, so let's do that again, because I should have written that equation over. Okay, so we should have written that equation over as 2y. So let's do it first this way. So 2y would have, or minus 2y smaller than minus 3x plus 4. That needs to be positive. When that needs to be positive, and we take away the negative, it needs to turn around. So then that will become 3x minus 4. So that means that we're actually looking at the positive. Okay, so when there is a negative in front of the -2, remember that we need to change it into the positive. So our acceptance area is actually this area. Okay, so we'll still fall out because it's bigger than 0. So that one will actually then fall nicely into place because it will be 2 and 5. The negative will be somewhere here, -2, 5x and negative, so will also not be. Okay, so I made the mistake at not changing that negative, so we need to change the negative to get the correct acceptance level. Okay, does that make a bit more sense? Okay, cool guys, so that is it. Good luck with your assignment. I am going to share this and the link and everything now so that you can just go through it again, but hopefully much better prepared for that assignment. Okay, cool. Have a good Saturday further and good luck. Yes, and good luck on the rugby side. At least I'm wearing my Springbok socks. Okay, awesome guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Cool, cheers, bye. Yeah, the interest ones, yeah, and it's like you said, if one start wrong, then you nearly got it wrong from the beginning. So yeah, keep your head when you're doing the interest questions, because from the start we nearly get it right. Okay, good luck guys. Let me stop the recording and I will share it on our